name's Joshua Krieger. I'm here to talk about historical native culture. More specifically, Eastern Woodland natives, which is most of the people that lived east of the Mississippi River. So this is part of one of the things that I do for a living, as I teach this at historical events throughout the tri-state area. And I also make and sell a lot of this stuff. So we will start with this end, the clothing. So moccasins, of course, their shoes, leggings, what they wore on their legs. For men, a breechcloth or breech clout, which just kind of goes between your legs and then flaps over front and back. For the women, they call it wrap skirt, which is just a piece of buckskin and then later wool that wrapped around their waist. Most of the year, men and women were topless. So later on, with trade with Europeans, they would have trade shirts. They call them, so these typical type of shirts. They like to wear all kinds of jewelry. So piercings and tattoos were very common, especially coastal regions, but all across coast to coast. Pre-contact, they use bone, stone, wood, and shell mostly for beads, and then after contact, all the glass trade beads. They'd also use copper, silver, and brass for different items that they would wear. So those are really common things that the Europeans would trade to the natives. The natives would trade mostly furs. So anything that you'd see here, deer hides, elk hides, or any kind of fur-bearing animal, they would trade those for that. So most of my program is based off of hunting tools. So native archery is a big part of it. These are typical Eastern Woodland style bows. This is a replica of a Shawnee bow. Very simple looking, but how they function is pretty interesting. The arrows with they use different points, different fletching, different types of fletching, different numbers of fletching, like different styles to fletch on their arrows, and then of course the typical, what we see most common, the 3 fletch. Quivers, of course, what they carry their arrows in. This is a basket style quiver. This is made out of bark. It's a replica of a Seneca quiver. This is a twine quiver, which is plant fiber, cordage, and then it's not exactly woven, but it's like a very ancient style of weaving. So this is a replica of a Chickasaw quiver, and then a fairly typical hide quiver. So moving over to the blowgun or blowpipe. This is just a hollow piece of river cane, which is native bamboo to this region, to North America, mostly the southeast. Hollow it out, straighten it. You straighten it with just with heat, and then take a sharpened stick and either the fluff from thistle or rabbit fur. Those were very common to catch the air, to propel it. So this is pre-contact, and this also persisted through into the 1800s, war clubs and throwing sticks. So for hunting, this is just a stick that you throw at a small animal, whether it's a bird or a squirrel or rabbit or some rodent or whatever. 2 styles. We call this the ball-headed club because it has a ball on the end. And this is a southeastern style, but it's very similar to what they call the gunstock club. This style doesn't look like it as much, but some of them have like a sharper angle, and it looks kind of like a rifle stock, but they were never made out of rifle stocks. Spears were used mostly hunting, and a lot of times mostly fishing. Of course, once trade with Europeans, knives were just a very useful tool to to be able to cut, scrape, whatever with. Before that, they would use just stone flakes like this. This is a typical stone knife that they would use. So stone will, like flint, chert, obsidian, things like that, will shear off to a very sharp edge. So you didn't have to do any other work to it. You just hit it with a rock, and the flake that comes off happens to be sharp. You can cut, slice, scrape with it, whatever. So tomahawks, axes, whatever term you want to use. These are 3 different styles that they used. Mostly processing wood, sometimes processing game. And then of course, during warfare, they'd use them as a weapon as well. So these things kind of go along with it. They're prisoner ties or prisoner ropes. It's just what it sounds like. They would tie up prisoners. They would take prisoners with them, whether they're natives, West Africans, or Europeans, and adopt them into their tribe to replace other members to build up their tribe. So, last thing are containers. They didn't have pockets, things like that, like we have now. They would make woven bark containers, hide containers, bags, twined pouch, cups, bowls, whatever, carved out of wood. They would use shells. This one I used to process paint, and gourds, river cane, just little containers. I actually have 3 little river cane containers in here for my paints that I use. So, any questions? I'm going to do a quick demonstration of how the bow is used. So, no questions at all about anything. Sure.
What's the poundage on that bow? Is it pretty low?
Yeah, this one is. They varied. Traditionally, the native bows, they would have smaller bows for hunting small game, and their bigger bows were typically, and their small bows were anywhere from 35 to 45 pounds ish. I mean, they could vary. They didn't have scales that they were using, but the existing ones that they have, they can kind of get an idea of what they were. And then their larger bows could be really, really powerful. In the southeast, when the Spanish and French went through different times, kind of early on, the 15 and 1600s, the natives would be, 100, 200 yards away. They didn't even know where they were. They were in the woods somewhere, and they would be shooting through armored Spaniards' legs, through the saddle, through the horse, and it would come out the other side. So you can't do that with a lightweight bow. They would talk about how they would have like a big lance with a big, like ash. Ash is a really hard wood lance shaft, and how the arrows sometimes would go into the lance shaft and make a cross. So they would go at least halfway through, a lance shaft. So they were very accurate, and they were really powerful. When I'm making bows, a lot of people are concerned with the weight of it until they try to draw it, and then and I make a lot of bows for kids and all kinds of people who just want to target shoot or whatever. But yeah, this is like a 32-pound bow, so it's not incredibly powerful. It just happens to be one that I have at the moment. I don't remember if I told this group, but I make and sell a lot of this stuff. And I don't actually have my own bow. I just use whatever's in stock, so to speak.
Did they do recurve?
They did do recurve some. It wasn't as common because mostly there's not. The benefit of a recurve is you'd see that on short bows out west because short bows aren't as efficient as long bows. and recurving the tips help it to make it more efficient. But on a longer bow, the added weight that you need, because you have to have stiffness to keep the recurve from flexing, diminishes the beneficial effect of it. So it wasn't as common. It was done some here in the East, but not as much. All right. Any other questions?
Do you wear those clothes like every day?
I don't wear them every day. I only wear them if I'm teaching at a historical event, or if I am commissioned for an art piece and someone wants to photograph me or whatever for their art. So like I think I said this at the beginning. This is historic Native culture. Any natives just dress like you guys are dressing, you know, just like most modern people.